Oil slicks are making their way south towards San Diego tonight, and local officials are moving precautions into place ahead of potential local contamination. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
And I'm Jesse Pagan. Marcella Lee has the night off. County officials have already placed boom barriers in some bodies of water and are asking for more. Meantime, crews work to find out if tar balls washing ashore on San Diego beaches are from natural leaks or the Orange County spill.
We have team coverage tonight with Kirsten Holmes live with the latest on the spill's San Diego impact, and Carlene Chavis tracking a storm and swells that could bring that oil closer to home. We start with Kirsten Holmes live in Mission Beach. Kirsten.
Hey there, Carlo and Jesse. Just like you said, I am here in Mission Beach, and I want to show you something. Take a look down here at my feet. That's a tar ball. If I take a couple steps back, there are more tar balls on the area. Meanwhile, if you take a look around me, there are people out enjoying a day in the water and on the sand along the beach when there was an oil spill less than 100 miles away.
Another big piece.
They're all a big glob at this particular point in time, but they started appearing in the sand.
Steve Heyman walks Mission Beach every morning, but this week he found something a little off.
Originally started taking a picture of it in the sand, and then took a picture of the apartments on the boardwalk as a relative, but then there were so many of them.
Steve says tar balls aren't uncommon along the beach because they occur naturally and just bubble up from the bottom of the ocean. But he says this many right after an oil spill is cause for concern.
You see the tourists, the kids, playing in the sand, and you know that stuff's nasty and toxic. And I thought, well, gosh, within an hour or two, maybe they'll have somebody in the white hazmat suits walking up and down, doing what I was doing and picking stuff up. But I don't see anything like that.
Kathy Ives with Don't Trash Mission Beach comes out every morning before dawn to pick up trash and says this is a problem.
When I first started noticing the tar coming up a couple weeks ago, I said, it's leaking again. They're seeping again.
And Kathy says she noticed the tar balls more and more since before the oil spill was reported, but says some tar balls are normal. This time, though, Kathy says something is definitely off.
When they talked about the oil spill, I said, that's where it's coming from. It's just working its way down here.
This is our lava rock fiber.
Brian Robinson with Spill Bully makes materials for cleaning up oil. Right now, Brian says 500 feet of their absorbent boom is being used in Oceanside Harbor.
And our absorbents have a natural filler inside, so it's volcanic rock fiber. This actually absorbs 3 times faster than your standard absorbents. Only the outer shell on ours is plastic, but the inside is all natural, one of the most abundant minerals on Earth. So we're liking to think that nature is kind of replenishing our own supply to be able to clean up nature with nature.
And here is a statement San Diego Fire Department's public information officer sent News 8 earlier today. It says in part, quote, there is no oil. There are tar balls on the sand. They may or may not be from the pipeline incident. If lifeguards along the coast, even in other cities, see anything of concern, they will notify the appropriate agencies and take the appropriate action, end quote. Now, until the county gets confirmation that the tar balls are connected to the oil spill, San Diego County beaches will remain open. But I got to tell you this, Solana Beach and Del Mar Beach are both reporting tar balls on their beaches, and they're advising beachgoers to use caution, but their beaches remain open. All right, so let's head back to the newsroom right now and get an update from Carlene Chavis, who is tracking a storm that could bring swell into our area and the potential for more oil to come to our area. Carlene?
Yeah, the key word there is potential as we go into next week. Let's go ahead and take a look at your surf forecast with that storm system that is set to move in. So we are talking about west swells, and that's going to be the case going from Monday into Tuesday. So the highest does look to be on Monday. You're talking about peaking Monday night. We're going to have the surf up to about 7 feet. Also talking about high surf into Tuesday with this approaching storm system as we hit Tuesday's forecast. So you're looking at anywhere between about 3 to 7 feet. And that's going to be Monday and Tuesday before everything calms down by the middle of next week. More details on that storm system and your weekend forecast coming up. Carlo?
We'll see you in a few. Thanks, Carlene. The first pregnant San Diego woman to die from COVID-19 passed away earlier this week, along with her unborn baby. County health officials announced the news today. She was not vaccinated. The county is not releasing her age to protect her privacy. From June through the end of October, there have been 253 local cases of COVID-19 in pregnant women. 203 of those cases were among women not fully vaccinated. California will now be the first state to make ethnic studies a graduation requirement for high school students. Just hours ago, Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB 101 into law. The move comes after years of opposition. News 8's Shannon Handy has more on the bill and what both supporters and opponents are saying about it.
Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB 101 into law Friday, ending a years-long debate over whether or not students should have to take ethnic studies. AB 101 requires high schools offer ethnic studies courses beginning in 2025 and make completing a one-semester course a graduation requirement starting in the 2029 school year.
What is the rush? What we're asking is put a pause on it.
Masha Merkalova is founder and executive director of Club Z, an after-school club for Jewish teenagers. I spoke with her just hours before Newsom approved the bill. She was among several Californians petitioning against it, in part because it does not mandate what curriculum teachers use.
There's no oversight. A teacher who is an activist can bring anything they want in a classroom. It doesn't have to be approved.
Of the 3 available curriculum options, she says 2 are racist and anti-Semitic, using terms like white supremacy and settler colonialism.
Yes, racism needs to be addressed. Yes, injustices need to be addressed. However, it needs to be through accurate history, through facts, not through perspective, not through personal narratives.
It's most definitely not a racist curriculum.
Dr. Sean Arce teaches Chicano studies to both high school and college students. He's also a member of the Liberated Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum Coalition, an educational advisory group which has worked to create the courses teachers will have to choose from under AB 101. They argue ethnic studies is necessary to understand our state's history, adding there are parameters in place.
We have fought 52 years for an ethnic studies requirement for California's majority student of color population. The curricular framework is up to each district within reason. We are a discipline. We have principles.
Last year, Newsom vetoed a similar bill saying the curriculum was, quote, insufficiently balanced. Revisions were made and it was adopted by the State Board of Education this past March. Following today's signing, AMHA, an anti-Semitism watchdog group, released a statement writing in part, "This is a dark day for Jewish students in California and the dozens of other states that historically follow California's lead."
Shannon Handy, News 8.
National City police officers shot and killed a man who they say threatened them with a machete early this morning. Just before 4:45, a self-storage employee called police about a man with a knife on the property. 2 officers saw the man nearby at 33rd and Hoover and used a taser after he resisted arrest. That's when they say he threatened them with the machete, and both officers shot their guns. The man, who hasn't been identified, died at the scene. The 2 officers are on paid leave, which is procedure after a shooting. Investigators are collecting evidence now, including body-worn camera video. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and yesterday was a big win in the fight against it in California. Political reporter Morgan Reiner explained some of the changes Governor Newsom signed into law.
Before yesterday, married people were not included in the definition of rape. It was an entirely different category, a category that was far less serious.
Nilda Valmores is the executive director of My Sister's House.
Our survivors, who often are immigrants and have been raised with strong cultural histories and values where they believe that they have to often submit to sex just because they are married.
California was one of fewer than a dozen states that had separate, far less serious rape laws for spouses. Yesterday, that changed.
So educating them about these laws, including the men in the communities, will let everyone know that forced sex, even in a marriage, is just that, forced sex.
33% of rapes that are reported are actually by a spouse or a partner.
Dr. Navneet Kaur specializes in couples and trauma therapy. She called the other new law, which criminalizes removing a condom without consent as civil battery, a victory for more than just domestic violence survivors.
Also for the sexual assault community, I know a lot of the excuse, is what I will call it, is that it doesn't feel as good. And so some people will either try to convince the victim at first to not wear a condom, or just like you were saying, remove it without the victim knowing that it's been removed. And the victim didn't consent to that. Therefore, it is battery.
That is another example of how sexual abuse and sexual violence happens in that absence of consent.
Tasha DeLeon Lee is a director at St. John's Program for Real Change. They serve hundreds of survivors a day.
Domestic violence definitely thrives in secrecy and not talking about it.
All three women agree that the horrific case of Gabby Petito is bringing the discussion of domestic violence to the dinner table, helping people realize that domestic violence comes in all different shapes and forms, and it's not always easy to recognize. They agree there needs to be a lot more education, but for now, they're celebrating yesterday's big win.